Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship here with another Velocity Banking review. And today is Tuesday. And what are we going to do on Tuesday? We're going to Velocity Bank and chill. We're not going to Netflix and chill. In fact, I don't even have access to a Netflix account, but that's what we're going to do today. Netflix and no Velocity Banking and chill. And I see that a lot of you like to chill with me because we have 1,000 hours watched in the last 28 days. And actually, the watch time has been going down because I've been posting less and less videos. And if you know how YouTube works, it's more of a quantity game than really a quality game because you just got to like spam things for the algorithm and then hopefully somebody watches your video. But yes, I do make at least $100 a month on YouTube. It used to be 200. I think one month I made 300. And so, how do I make the money? Talk about debt payoff. And that's what we're going to do today. So, if you want to know why I just blab on and on and on and on and on and on and on in these videos, it's because I want to increase this watch time and get that sweet, sweet $100 a month YouTube ad revenue. That's why I make up, screenshots about how I paid off a mortgage in 2 years and 9 months. Oh, wait, did I say that out loud? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Velocity Banking, what is it? It's a debt payoff strategy where you throw all of your money into debt with the help of something called a line of credit. So we're going to do a repeat of yesterday's exercise, right? Yesterday's exercise. And so a lot of people, this is like the myth that a lot of people have. If I make great money, my life will get better. And that's actually not true unless you're really strategic, right? And you learn how to say yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. But what happens with a lot of people, and this is why a lot of professional athletes get broke, is that they make a lot of money and they don't know how to say no. Okay. Like, especially to friends and family. I remember reading articles a long time ago about the number one reason why professional athletes get broke is because all their friends and family hit them up for money and they can't say no, right? And who are we going to say no to? To bad offers from the bank. Okay, that's really what velocity banking is about, saying no to bad offers from the bank. And what do we mean by that? Well, if you know how the bank works, they don't target poor people. They don't target poor people. They target rich people who possibly don't know how to pay off debts quickly. That's their favorite customer, right? Like, who wouldn't want a 30-year mortgage paid off with refinances, endless refinances, so that you're always getting a stream of income, right? No bank wants a 30-year mortgage paid under 3 years, right? Because that severely hampers the profitability, right? And I know that they resell a lot of their notes to third parties, but if there's a trend in the marketplace where too many people are paying off their debts too quickly, then those notes that they resell in the secondary marketplace are just as good as a good as useless. That we'll say that, okay? So, yeah, velocity banking. What is it? Well, it's a debt payoff strategy. And what's the first step to velocity banking? Well, it's creating a budget, right? Because your budget is your debt attack plan. Income, expenses, leftover savings. You list every single debt that you have, right? You have your auto loan, student loan, your mortgage, and then you have your operating expenses, your personal non-debt expenses, which is food, gas, insurance, right? And so what we're going to do, okay, we're going to copy the income and the expenses, right? We're going to copy those. And what we're also going to do is redirect the flow of money, okay? So notice how under the expense breakdown, everything in the black font is a debt and everything under this red font is kind of like non-debt, right? Things we always have to pay for. So even if we get rid of our debt, we always still have to pay for these things, right? And this is just a general figure that I throw. I think $3,000 a month, I think is a good number for everyone to survive on, right? Like you get plenty of food. You've already quote paid off your shelter because your shelter is $1,200 a month, right? But food, gas, insurance should be enough, okay? So what we're going to do is we're not going to save money, okay? We're not going to save money, and what we're going to do is increase our cash flow. Now, we're at a negative savings cash flow initially, whatever you want to call it. And so a lot of people, again, let's say you hide this section, just say, hey, man, um, if you made 12 grand a month and you had all this debt and you had negative $98 left over in your checking account or savings, do you need to make more money to get out of this hole? Right? Like that's how you present velocity banking. You don't present it as like, oh, it's the ultimate debt payoff strategy. No, no, no. How do you get out of this hole? Right? And a lot of people will say you have to make more money. Okay? Like, oh, well, if you're in the negative, it's because the income is more than the expenses. But when we redirect the flow of money, when we have debt, okay, and we redirect the flow of money, and we do something crazy that most people won't consider, which is to not save money, right? People freak out when you don't save money. Now, obviously, if you compare these two situations, you want negative $98 or $0, they prefer the zero. But if this is positive, even if it's a small number like $100, $200 a month, and this is zero, they'll always prefer the positive savings compared to zero. And what we're doing is training our mind about what the role of our checking and savings are, right? Because in traditional banking, you pay all your bills and then you leave the leftover in the checking or savings, right? Whereas velocity banking, you're dumping all of your money into debt with the help of something called a line of credit. Okay. So this is what we're gonna do, and then I'm gonna show you example of how this works. You know, money comes in, and then yeah, money comes in, then it goes out, right? So the way that the average American mind works when it comes to money coming in is I have to keep as much money here as much as possible and pay my bills from it, right? Whereas here, money comes in and then you just dump it into a line of credit and then you just take what you need from the line of credit. Okay. So, and I know some of you are some of you are looking at this and thinking, "Oh my goodness, like is this for real? Like is this for real?" You know, you ever seen like, one of those videos where like there's a young girl and she's like, "Look at my eyes. Like how dare you not look at anything except my eyes?" And then she's wearing like the skimpiest outfit in the gym. You know what I mean? I think this is like the financial version of this. Like, look here. Don't look here. Why are you looking here? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. All right. So let's go ahead and do velocity banking. And so what we're gonna do is use something called a line of credit as our main operating account. So what's a line of credit? Well, all it is a financial tool where you could borrow money, pay it back, and then use it over and over again, right? So the home equity line of credit is this is a home equity line of credit that I have, $373,500, right? So what does this mean? I can dump up to $373,500 into my checking account. Okay. That's literally what this means. I could dump it into my checking account and the bank will charge me a 7.5 or 8, I'm sorry, 8.5% annual interest rate. Okay. So that's not the only line of credit that I have, right? And a credit card's a line of credit. It's a little bit more restrictive because you can't use it to pay everything, but a home equity line of credit, you can use it to pay whatever you want. You could even use it to pay its own monthly bill. Like you owe $50 in interest. Okay, take that interest payment out of the line of credit, and then it will be a compounding effect if you don't have any income, of course. But you could do that. You could do that. All right. So let me go down here. Okay. So let me scroll down, and then you can see that I have over $731,000 in lines of credit. And I asked ChatGPT, like, $731,000 in lines of credit, what percentage does that put me in? And ChatGPT says 0.01%, the top 0.01%. And I was like, whoa, wow. And who knows, maybe in like, a couple months, it's gonna be a million. I always like kind of say that, but I don't really care. And when I had like over $200,000 in lines of credit, I was just like, whoa, that's more than enough. And then once I got to 700,000, and this is what happens as you make more and more money and you have access to more and more resources. There used to be a time where it's like, having 1 or 2 computers would have been so awesome to me, and now I have, like, 5 at my house, like, 1 for each room, and then, I have it all connected to a LAN network, so I don't really use Wi-Fi, unless I'm, like, playing on my Nintendo Switch too, but I gotta probably find a way to put that on a Ethernet cable as well, because I don't really like using Wi-Fi. But my point is this, as your resources grows, so as you have access to more and more money, you'll get to a point where it's like 1,000,000 or 2,000,000 is like, well, that's it. But at the same time, you're if you have access to like $1,000,000 in lines of credit, you're in the top point whatever percent, and you've beaten 99% of the population. But yes, I have over $731,000 in lines of credit. And here's the secret to getting these lines of credit, because a lot of people just don't want to do things right, or they don't want to do things in the right order. The secret is banks don't lend money to people who need it. And a lot of people think I'm hiding something from them when I tell them that, and I'm not, because once you understand the secret, you'll know when to go to a bank, right? So there have been times in my life where I was like waking up at like 1 a.m. or maybe I couldn't go to sleep, and I was like, what can I do right now? Because I'm like, I can't go to sleep, right? And then I said to myself, oh, do I need money today? And if the answer is yes, I'm not applying on the bank's website. And if the answer is no, I was like, all right, well, I don't need money, so I'll go ahead and apply on the bank's website for some credit cards, lines of credit, and then what do you know? I have I now have access to a line of credit. I now have access to a line of credit, right? And so yeah, so why am I laughing? I don't know, because it's radio. That's what you gotta do in radio to fill in the airspace. Somebody, was like criticizing me. Why do you laugh at your own? Because it's radio, you dumb nuts. Like, my goodness. People don't know how things work. It's like they've never lived outside their bubble, but that's probably the society that we live in nowadays with the echo chamber. All right. So this is my last line of credit that I've got recently in the last month or so, $20,000 personal line of credit. And again, I just always went to a bank when I didn't need the money. And then it's just a constant flow over the years of me not needing money and then going to a bank, which led to $731,000 in lines of credit. Right. And then banks don't lend money to people who need it. So if you're in this situation right now, even if you make good income and you try to get like a new free and clear home equity line of credit, you have to understand how the bank thinks of you when they see this situation. What are they seeing? Well, they're essentially seeing someone who needs money because you're negative 98 in the hole. And this is like a person who crashes their car without car insurance and is trying to apply for car insurance. You don't want to do that. Pretty much every car insurance company will see that you're trying to apply for car insurance and you crashed your car, and you didn't was like, well, why didn't you get the car insurance before you started to drive? Right? A lot of people like that when it comes to their finances. So what you want to do is get the car insurance, aka the line of credit, before you start to drive. And this is why it's very important that you get these lines of credit before you ever need the money. Right? Bank's not going to save you when you need the money. Bank's only going to give you the tools to save yourself when you don't need the money. Right? But a lot of people don't want to hear that. In fact, one of the reasons why I think a lot of people don't can't understand this is I'm gonna be blunt, is because they're selfish, right? Because getting access to $731,000 in lines of credit sometimes does require you to pay money to the bank, right? Like my home equity line of credit, my previous ones, I never had to pay a dime to get access, but this one, the $373,000 one, I paid about $3,000 in fees to get access to it. And so a lot of people, when times are good, it's like, well, why would I give money to the bank when times are good, right? And that's kind of the selfish mentality where that will force you to only go to a bank when times are bad, and when the bank sees that, they'll just say no thanks and turn you away, right? A lot of people don't understand that, even though the bank isn't like the most angelic institution, it's not like a pure institution with pure thoughts, right? Yes, they do want to rip you off, but I'm just saying, just as a person, in order to have access to those funds, you kind of have to have a good heart. Like you have to be a little bit generous. Like you don't want to be so generous that you're paying like 200% on a home purchase price on a 30-year mortgage, right? But maybe you give them like 10, 15 grand. Okay, I'll give you 10, 15 grand for 300, right? That's essentially how a 30-year mortgage works, okay? Or at least in my world it does. But I'm not going to give you like if I pay $200,000 for a house, I'm not going to pay like $400,000 at the end of the 30-year loan. That's ridiculous, okay? So all right. So, but we're going to assume we have access to a line of credit because this would have been your lifesaver if you'd known about this. That's why I like to show free and clear lines of credit. And, in all honesty, realistically, okay, you only have access to these lines of credit. You only have access to these lines of credit. Uh, Well, okay, why did I laugh? I don't know. So you only have access to these lines of credit when you don't need money, right? Like that's really it. So no one is going to give you a line of credit. And okay, so another thing I want to mention is that most people when they have access to a line of credit, they'd never learned the velocity banking strategy. So let's say they have a $200,000 HELOC and they come to me, usually a $200,000 balance. Right? Because they just treat it like another credit card to borrow from rather than their main operating account. And that's like the key words here, main operating account. Because what we're going to do is shuffle some debt into the line of credit and then dump all our paycheck in and take our expenses out, which makes it our main operating account, right? Every dime that comes in will just go into the line of credit. And then once we need to pull the expenses out, we don't leave it in the checking account. We just take it from the line of credit when we need it. Okay. All right. So let's figure out which debts to move. And so we have a formula called the cash flow index. So what is the cash flow index? Basically, all it is a formula where it's the statement balance divided by the payment, and then it will give you a number. And then the number is arbitrary. And actually, let me do this. Okay. So we have these loan calculators right here. And so I forgot to include the amortized loans, but basically it's the balance divided by the payment. And so guys, it kind of gives you an easy ranking system. So you see these 20s and 30s right here, and then 50, 80, 237. We're going to leave the amortized loans last and focus on the credit cards first, right? This is probably one of the most important lessons you can learn about velocity banking, which is you have to pay off the debt in the right order. A lot of people, especially when they do velocity banking videos, get fixated on the mortgage, but the mortgage has to be the last debt that you paid off because the fact that you spread out the payment for such a long period of time means that the cash flow index will be a relatively high number, right? Okay, so $98 of cash flow. And so what we're going to do is we're going to move these 10 credit cards, right? These low cash flow index numbers into the line of credit. And I believe this is $167,000 in balance 5, 8, 15, 27, 37, 10, 35, 12, 15, 15. Okay. And then this is 160. No, it's 164. My bad. 164,000, unless I missed something. Let me just make sure I got these numbers. 27, 15, 8, 5. All right. $164,000 of debt. $164,000 of debt. So what happens when we move this $164,000 of debt into the line of credit? Okay, this is probably going to be the most shocking thing that you'll show other people, and then they won't be able to handle it. They won't be able to handle it because look at this, income stays the same, and then we have to put 0 because the payments go away. Oh my goodness, we literally went from negative $98 to $5,000 of cash flow. What? Yes, negative $98 of savings to $5,000 of cash flow. Look at the power of not saving money and then using your line of credit as your main operating account. Negative $98 and $5,000 of cash flow, right? How did this go from here to here? Oh my goodness. And look, the income is the same. So I know some of you have sent me spreadsheets where you're making over 10 grand a month and you're like, why am I broke? Bank wants you there. You got to say no to the bank's bad offers, right? So, final step is you put your entire 12 into the line of credit, which will do two things: 12 grand, satisfy the minimum monthly payment, and lower the balance of the line of credit, which lowers the average daily balance, which means that you'll end up paying less interest because the interest is based on the average daily balance, right? And then so what we're going to do is do this. Okay. Previous month's balance, interest minus the cash flow, so 5012.8. And then what we're going to do is take the interest, multiply it by the interest rate, 0.075, divided by 12. And then what we're going to do is copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. All right. All right. So now copy and paste. All right, so 37 months. All right, so now 37 months, it took us to pay off 164K of debt, right? 164K of debt. And look at that. I mean, think about this. Like, how much balls would you be sweating if you're like negative $98 in the hole and you made all this money? A lot of people are like this. You know how many broke doctors there are? You know how many Reddit threads I could go to on like about medical school and people freaking out about their debt? In fact, let's just do a quick Google search. Reddit med school loan worry. Let's see that. All right. Yeah, incoming M1. Anyone else super nervous about debt pre-med? Are med students really in this much debt? High med school debt is stressing me out, right? So, man, all right. So now we have a $200,000 student loan, an auto loan, and mortgage. So we're assuming that this is probably a doctor, a high paid specialty doctor. I think $12,000 a month is pretty good if you work at a hospital. Hospitals make good money, all right? So, yeah, $200,000 student loan, and then I am just going to go here. And so this is going to be month 37. So this is a loan calculator, and this is the current balance of the loan at the current month. And so what we're going to do is copy and paste this. Again, use the cash flow index. What does it mean? If I pay 8 grand, I get $400 in my cash flow. Whereas this high number means if I pay a lot, 280,000, I only get $1,200 in my cash flow. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Plus 8890.53. And then we're going to get zero, $400 of cash flow, and then 5 grand. Okay. And all right, so 5413.02. And then, okay, and then this is going to be paid off in 2 months. Interesting. 5413.02. Right. Okay. So now in 39 months, so in 2 months, we paid off the car. And then it's going to be 164 plus 22. And this is when life gets on easy mode. Once you pay off once you pay off the credit cards, then really like everything else is easy. All right, let's move the student loan into the line of credit. And so this is going to be 39, $149,000 left. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people on the internet, you might say, oh, loan interest rate doesn't matter. It actually does. So even if I have, let's say, a relatively high cash flow index, let's say like anything above 50, I think is high, mid, and then anything above 100 is high. But you have to consider the interest rates when you especially if this is a higher number, right? But since we're moving a 7 into a 7.5, no biggie here. But if it's like 3 to 10, oh man, that's going to be a painful experience. And I probably need to make another video about the first lien HELOC again because I see it promoted everywhere about how it's the best thing since sliced bread, right? All right, so let's go in and then do $2,322. And then, whoa, we're 7 grand. Now where life is really in easy mode, right? All right, so let's go ahead and do this. And then this is going to be minus 7735.19. Okay. And then this is 60 months, right? 60 months, this is all paid off. 60 months. And then it's going to be, I think it's 386K, right? So, as I look at Reddit about med school loans, I'm like, what a joke. Actually, the thing I would be worried about is not the debt, it's just the painful working conditions that the initial the lot of people in the healthcare field work in, right? Like, you ever hear about like the nurses working like insane shifts? Like, I would, you know, I don't think I could ever do healthcare. I don't care how much they pay, unless I'm an admin. I just like be like a admin, and then I go in, I get paid, and then like if it's a 9 to 5, I just leave. I'm not gonna work like 100 hours a week. Yeah. All right. So last thing is the mortgage. So this is gonna be month, what is it? 60. And let's pay it off, right? So why do we have to pay off our mortgage if the payment is so low compared to the balance, right? What's the deal? It's because when you just kind of leave it alone and pay until the full term, oh my goodness, you got to pay, even at a 3% interest rate, you got to pay about 50% interest in total, right? So you don't want to ever get to paying the total interest of that loan, because I think, it's funny about how human psychology works is that if you're buying real estate, people get like all worked up about like, oh, $20,000 like negotiated, but they don't really seem to care about paying $150,000 minimum, right? Because this is a 3% loan. So if this is 6%, right? Let's put this to 6, and you go to the 30th year of the loan, 347,000. Like, okay, I'm gonna be free, be excited about negotiating $20,000 off of real estate, but I don't really care about paying $347,000 to the bank. And folks, this is why the banks have the tallest buildings, because it's that saying from Spaceballs, that people are dumb, right? Evil succeeds because people are dumb. I think that's the saying. All right, so let's go ahead and do this right here. So $266,000, and then all right. So this is going to be here, 266,000. Here. Okay, so I'm thinking 266,000. All right. What am I even thinking? I'm just blanking out right now. Maybe, and you know why I'm blanking out? Probably because I don't have to care and I paid off a mortgage in 2 years and 9 months. Whoa! Did I use that just an excuse to brag about me paying off a mortgage in 2 years and 9 months? I probably did, but I did do that. So just a little flex there before we continue resuming. All right. So when we pay off our mortgage, one of the things that we have to really consider is it a smart idea to pay off a 3% mortgage with a 30% credit card, right? So what I'm trying to show you is that a lot of people freak you out that line of credit interest rate, so say 7 to 10, is so bad that you should never use it to pay off your debt, right? And my, just kind of, I don't even say rebuttal is, consider all the alternatives, right? So the first alternative is that when you over directly pay a loan in cash, like directly from your checking account, that money is poof, gone, right? And again, this is just kind of like, you know, you'll still survive, okay? And because especially if you have all these lines of credit, credit cards, you could just always use it as a backup. But the thing that we also want to prevent is like, remember, how did we get here in the first place? Right? How did we get to $98? It's because we engaged in something called the segregation of income. So money comes in, it gets split into, I'll say 12, 13 different ways, or maybe 14. And then because your money is split into all these different ways, it's not as effective as if it's just putting your money into one place, right? So we don't want to segregate our income. Now, if you're disciplined enough, which most people are not, to directly pay from your checking account, that's perfectly fine. I have nothing against that. But you can even still use a 7 or 30% line of credit to pay off your mortgage, right? And so what I'm going to show is is this the right numbers? 266,719.09. So 266,719.09. I think I screwed up here. Look at this. All right. So now I filled in the numbers and look at this. This pays off in 2.6 years. And this is assuming this is a 7.5% interest rate, and we're doing something called chunking. We're just moving pieces of the loan into the line of credit. So what does this look like? Well, realistically, it kind of looked like something like this, right? So it'd just be, plus 12,000, right? And then look at after 1 month, the 12,000 kind of gets paid off, right? And then this gets paid off in 2 months, and so on and so forth, right? So you see the pattern here. So let's say you move 12,000 here, gets paid off, and then you have another 1,000 balance. So this is just moving parts of the loan into the line of credit and doing it over and over again. And so even if you did this at a 30% interest rate, look at this right now, 11 grand. Okay, this goes to 16 grand of interest paid. Hold on, somebody's calling me. Let me see. Who is calling me? Dell Computers. I think they're trying to sell me stuff because I bought a computer through a business account. Okay. All right. So let me just kind of take a look here. So 2.7 years. So 16 grand. Okay. 16 grand in interest, right? So 16 grand in interest. So even if you use a 30% credit card, you're still relatively safe as long as you pay off the debt in the correct order. Okay. Now, obviously, you want to get the lowest interest, right? But the lowest interest is 7.5%. And then 30% credit card is just a difference of 5 grand. Now, you could probably even make that up with like credit card rewards points and stuff like that, because there's some really good programs out there that give you huge bonuses. But the other thing too, okay, is we have to remember that the best credit decision is not the best financial decision, right? So if I'm swiping 7 grand or 12 grand a month on a credit card, do you think when the bank sees that they're happy to increase my limits? What do you think? Right? So when the bank sees that, they'd be like, "Ooh, you're paying off 12 grand relatively quickly. Like that's really good." And they love people who don't need money. And so when they say that you can make these 12 grand swipes and just pay them off relatively quickly, they'll be like, we're going to have to expand this person's credit, right? And sometimes they might do it for you automatically. But that's what I'm saying is that sometimes, we might have to pay a little bit more to get access to a lot more money. I mean, the typical example I always give is you pay 3,000 for 380. Would you not take that, or 380,000? I don't know. Why wouldn't you take that? That's why like credit is essentially a money access multiplier, right? Like I would have never in my life saved $731,000 ever. I've never done that. Frankly, I don't think I've ever saved more than like I don't know, how much have I not saved? Probably never more than 100. And I know for some people it's like more than 100. But this is what I'm saying is that I've never that 100 times 7 is 700,000, and because credit is a money access multiplier, right? And if you know how to use it wisely, you can be able to pay it back quickly. But it's okay to pay some money to the bank to have access to that money. Just don't be like thinking, well, I'm never going to pay a dime to the bank, right? Like, don't ever think that. Everything's a trade-off, and you have to pay people to get access to whatever they're providing, whether it's credit, labor, right? Like too many people, they're like, I don't want to pay the other person a single dime, but I want what they have, and then they wonder why nobody wants to work with them. Okay. It's kind of sad. All right, well, that's it for today, folks. This is Korean Atlanta mentorship, so we'll say it's 2.6 years. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just do this. So this is going to be 0. So 60 plus, no, actually divide by 12 plus 2.6. And yeah, 7.6 years debt free. Woo! 7.6 years and we're debt free. Woohoo! Oh, did it wipe out my wipe out 7.6 years? Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for today, folks. This is Korean Atlanta mentorship here with another video for you today, and yeah, that's it. So I don't know if you want to hang out and chill with me. I'm probably gonna play. This is what I'm probably gonna do for the rest of the day. So you might be like, what? What am I doing? Something like super, super um, awesome? I don't know. It depends on you. What I do. I'll tell you what I'll do is because I got a Switch 2 and I have a copy of Mortal Kombat 11. And if you know anything about these latest Mortal Kombat games, they have amazing story modes. The cinematics that they have are so much better than like Hollywood movies. And I don't think they get enough credit because like they're video games, right? But I love these story modes. And I'm just going to use the rest of my time to play the Mortal Kombat 11 story mode, right? So, all right. Well, that's it for today, and got my Nintendo Switch 2 because I paid off a mortgage in 2 years and 9 months. Yes, I did. It's just a little flex there. All right. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you on the next video.